Hello and welcome to the From the Finney podcast with me, Jake, and our first fan guest in the shape of Jimmy Atkinson, or at Bayside Peony on Twitter. In this episode, Jimmy and I will be reviewing the opening month of the season and looking at the performances of a few different players as well. How are you doing, Jimmy? All right? Thanks for
good, mate.
Good. Thanks for agreeing to come on. Appreciate it. I know it's late. Not late at night, but at the end of a working day, it's not an ideal time. But
no, it's fine. Thanks for having me on. It's been a bit of an interesting month, hasn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. You definitely could say that, especially with. I mean, what have we got? 6 or 7 on the injury table at the minute.
6 or 7 on the injury table, 10 points on the board. I mean, if you'd, we'll come on to it in a bit, I'm sure, but if you'd said after Millwall we'd have 10 points on the table and be, 7th in the league, I'd probably snap your hand off, to be honest with you.
I think everyone would have snapped whoever was offering that song off. Definitely. I know I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you just mentioned Millwall. It's probably the ideal place to start, considering it was the first game of the season. On paper, to me, I didn't think it looked that much of a difficult game to start the season, especially after last season. It certainly looked like a winnable game, and I think most people will agree that, I certainly thought we started the first half pretty well, and I've said it on here before that I think if we scored in that first half, that'd make it a completely different game. Alan Brown's effort from out of the box was cleared off the line, or at least headed away from very close to the line. And I think if that had gone in, I'd have definitely backed us to get at least a point on the board.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was a missed opportunity, to be honest with you, mate. It's I thought second half we were poor. I mean, if you look at the stats, we didn't have one shot on target. I know there's obviously the Brown effort, but created not a lot really, did we? No. I mean, having Maguire up front as a number 9 on his own just didn't work, which I know Neil's reflected on and moved him since. And I
think just on that as well, I think Neil needs to take a little bit of a hit in terms of the way that we were playing. And now I know you could say that he's done it with Barkey. I've not seen the Forest game back, so I don't know how we played with Bowden up there. But especially with Barkey against Stoke, it was still very much lumping balls up, sort of in behind and using his pace. But I think that's just not Maguire's game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you've got to adapt, to be honest with you, Jake. It's for me, that Millwall game, looking back at it, the subs didn't really make an impact. He took Barkhuizen off, who I thought was the most creative player on the day. It took him off after an hour, and we never looked like getting going after that point. To be honest, it's a really poor goal to concede, and we'll come on to conceding goals from wide areas later on in the pod. But giving the ball away cheaply in the middle of the park, and we didn't do enough to stop the cross. So you can probably look at Deck as well for the goal conceded, but it might be a little bit harsh on him looking back, but he's got hands to it, so he probably should deal with it. But
you would expect a keeper to if he gets hands on, you'd expect him to at least punch it away, not into the side of his net.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just tip it over. At least deal with it. And I mean, to be honest with you, his performances since Millwall for Deck, I think he's massively improved, and probably coming in's had a bit of an impact on that. He's coming in, he's punching a lot more, and he's actually looking a little bit more commanding than probably what he did.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I think Millwall, it's a massive missed opportunity. And to be fair, let's look at their results since. Not a lot of teams have gone there and picked up anything. I think Sheffield Wednesday, was it, that got beat there a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. I was going to say, I think you have to, as poor as we were in the second half, I think you have to give credit to Millwall in the way that they played. They sat in, the fullbacks didn't allow anything in terms of our wide players. They just made it very difficult once they got that goal. They just made it really difficult for us. Now, over the season, whether that proves to be an issue in terms of breaking teams down that sit back, I suppose we'll only find out as the season goes on. But
yeah, and I mean, looking at it, Millwall have lost one game this season. and don't get me wrong, they got tonked at Fulham. I think it was 4-0 on the night, but
Yeah,
they're drawing a lot of games. Matt Smith up front, a big striker, it fits perfectly into the way the Millwall play, especially with them losing Gregory to Stoke. It's somebody they're going to really focus on. And teams, we've always struggled against Matt Smith. It doesn't matter who's been at centre half. Ideally you want to play like Hunt against him because he's a link-up player and he's probably a better version of Stockley. In all that, he's probably just as mobile, but he's more of a threat. And I think he's scored 2 or 3 already this season.
Yeah.
But a free transfer like that after losing Gregory in the summer is probably a good signing for them. But not many teams will go to Millwall this season and win.
No, I think we said that as well at the time. That not many teams will bring anything back from the Den. So it was first game of the season. All right, we lost. It was disappointing, but just one of them. We move on, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it was quite key. And I suppose going into the Wigan game, we probably, especially when we looked at the team sheet going on that day, 4 changes, and you're thinking, okay, he's actually, Malt coming back in from the cold. It was a little bit unexpected, to be honest.
Yeah, considering his lack of involvement in pre-season as well. He was, I think, for the most part, he was involved in what people would have considered the second 11 in pre-season.
Yeah.
It was a massive shock.
Yeah. But, from going to nearly joining Charlton, because that was the week after the deadline. And obviously, it was quite disappointing. Our probably performance in the transfer window is putting it politely.
Yeah, we'll on to that again a bit later on.
Or lack of performance. And I thought he was superb against Wigan, to be honest with you. He was a threat. He'd actually, if you'd played him against Millwall, would the outcome have been different? Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
But exactly.
I suppose him and DJ. DJ in the number 10 position against Wigan was probably
It was a revelation, wasn't it?
It's such a big positive, wasn't it, really? He's flourished throughout the month. I think the best way I describe that Wigan game is ruthless. Them losing Garner to that Pearson shot that, he decided to put his head on for some, at least he's got his head to it, but obviously it's knocked him out. And that didn't help them, to be honest.
You could argue that was maybe written in the stars. Joe Garner, playing for Wigan, comes up against arguably our biggest arsehole. In Pearson, who rarely shoots from anywhere and catches arguably Wigan's biggest arsehole in the face with a rocket of a shot.
Yeah. And it's just one of them games at Wigan where everything fell into plan, went to plan for us. And, Galley's goal was, it shows how important Galley is as well. He's not just this linchpin in midfield. He's so clinical at set pieces. And whether that's delivery for assists or actual strikes like that, it was one of those games,
hasn't it, in his time here?
He's going to be so hard to replace. I know we look at it now, Jake, where he's 34 now. Is he 35 this year? Yeah. So he's coming towards the end. I know that's as sad as it is, but in the next sort of 18 months to 2 years, who's going to actually replace him? Because
big worry, I would say.
Yeah, and I don't know if Bayliss was brought in as that, but he still looks a little bit raw.
I think with Galley, provided if he stays injury free this year, I think we might get another bit part season out of him next year. But I would imagine that'd be even fewer games.
Because I was worried in pre-season, being honest with you. I watched a couple of the pre-season games and he looked leggy, and I was like. Yeah. Is this it? Is he going to go into the first sort of half dozen games of the season and not be able to do it? And then, Millwall, the game probably passed him by a little bit, because of the way they played. But Wigan, he was instrumental, and I think he's one of those players that we've got to look after. Because if we don't look after him, and to be fair to Neil, I think he does. He brings him off after 60, 70 minutes most weeks. He feels a little bit cramped. You can see him holding his calf a little bit more than he probably used to. And you've just got to look after a player like that because he will get you points over the season.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think I look back at the wider picture in North End at the minute, and we've got centre midfielders in abundance, but can any of them step into that quality of Pearson or Galley? just have a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a question mark over that. There was times last season where if either one of those two were out of the team, you worried, especially with, and again, I'll come on to it later on when we talk a bit more about DJ, but he was largely played in a deeper role last year and never really looked effective. Maybe the odd game here and there he would play a part, score a goal, get an assist. But even someone with his quality on the ball, who you would maybe argue is the one closest to Galley in terms of his set pieces, even he didn't look like getting anywhere near.
He's going to be so hard to replace, and I mean, I don't think DJ and Galley are. I think Harrop potentially could be a Galley in the future. I mean, his assist for the goal against Hull in League Cup, great delivery, for Hunt.
Yeah.
But he's a different type of player. I mean, you look at Galley 10, 12 years ago when we had him first time. He was a number 10 back then.
Came in as a number 10 / striker, didn't he? Really?
Yeah, and I mean, we ended up utilising him probably as an inside left or a 10 at the time, and probably wasn't first time around. He probably didn't make the impact that he has second and third time. Especially the playoff season, and since we've been in the Championship, Galley's instrumental in that midfield.
Oh yeah.
And we look such a better team with Pearson and Gallagher next to each other. I think you've got to, if you keep them two together, and I suppose it's getting your spine of the team in a great place, then you build on that, and I think, we'll come on to Bauer later on as well, but Bauer and Davis complementing Pearson and Gallagher as that core four in the middle of the park, it just works for me.
No, yeah, it definitely does. I think moving on to the Bradford game.
Sorry, mate, I've gone off topic there.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think you obviously mentioned Bayliss. He came in the Bradford game, and there was Ledson in the centre. Andre Green played out on the left. Potts was sort of on the right, kind of a number 10, kind of not. He was a little bit all over the place in terms of his positioning. I think what that showed was that we've definitely got depth. Whether we've got the absolute quality, now some people will be pointing to the first 5 results and saying, well, we've got 6, 7 players are injured. We've not done too bad in terms of 10 points on the board from 5 games. So you could argue that we've got the quality and depth, but it's still early days. Is it a bit too soon to say that we've absolutely definitely got that quality?
For me, I mean, it was 11 changes, weren't it, for Bradford? I mean, it was a great opportunity to get those 11 changes in for the lads. And I mean, Andre Green was probably the best player on the pitch that night. Alongside Barkey, 2 decent finishes. The level of opposition wasn't great in Bradford. Let's be honest with you. They were, they'd made a few changes themselves and they weren't great. So it was a little bit of a stroll second half at times. It was great to get Harrop on.
It was a stroll in the park, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, getting Harrop on, obviously scoring with his first touch, pretty much.
About 20 seconds or something, hadn't it? Not long.
So I mean, don't get me wrong, it's massively deflected, but it was great to get him back at that point.
Yeah.
Especially after the layoff and I suppose what he's been through the past 12 months, which I mean he's talked about quite well himself, in the interviews he's given.
He seems to be full of confidence, coming out saying he wants to be the best player in the league and stuff like that. You can't knock him for obviously he's backing himself there, isn't he?
No, absolutely. And why not? I mean, he's got good pedigree. You don't spend that sort of time at Manchester United and not be a decent pedigree player. Look at Pearson. I mean, his pedigree is unbelievable for a player that's come through the ranks at United. And I mean, for getting for the price we did, I mean, you probably know better than me, but it was not exactly a massive fee.
No.
At the time we got Pio, and the difference that he's made to the team over the past sort of 3-4 years has been amazing.
Yeah, he's like you said before, he's certainly cemented himself as a linchpin, if you will, in that centre mid, whether he's paired alongside Gallagher or whether it's Brown or someone else. He's, I think, alongside Davis, and probably Bauer at the minute, I'd say as well. They're probably the first three names on the team sheet every week, provided they're fit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One other thing I would say about Bradford, Jake, is about Rafferty. Obviously, he came into the team at that point, and I suppose through, luck more than anything. Obviously, keeping his place in since. I mean, for a lad that at the start of the season, you're probably looking at being potentially fourth choice fullback. If you include Fisher, Hughes, Clark ahead of him.
Yeah.
You could have probably put Early ahead of him at left back, especially before he went out on loan. I think he's been solid. He's not done anything special, but he's steady. You know what I mean?
He's just done the basics well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he jockeys defenders wide quite well. He reads the game quite well. I mean, he's not going to be one of these that's going to be up and down the ring on his wrong foot. I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll come on to Swansea in a moment, and it was a decent strike, but he's not going to give you the attacking prowess that Hughes will. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hughes isn't up and down the wing. He's not delivering balls in left, right, and centre, but he's obviously a lot steadier on his left foot than Rafferty is.
Yeah, from a natural point of view.
Yeah. Has Rafferty been tested, really? I don't know. I think he probably had his biggest test on Saturday, just gone against Forest, but he's done a job. Yeah. And I mean, we were crying out for a left back and a forward all transfer window has been well publicised on Twitter and everything, and I've been quite vocal about that. Why I don't think we needed Bayliss personally, and it's a lot of money to spend on a 20-year-old when we were crying out for a left back and a forward of a bit of quality, because I mean that's what Neil said back at the end of last season. We need quality to improve, and I mean you look back at the transfer window and it wasn't great from that point of view. I mean Bauer looks the part, and he was good last season for Charlton. He's had a good couple of years there, and to be fair, he looks like one of these players that is going to make the step up.
Yeah,
the other three signings.
I think he's made the step up, hasn't he? To be honest, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Bit shaky at Millwall. I mean, you could probably put a bit of a point on the goal. He probably could get his position a little bit better for the ball that did come in for the goal.
Yeah,
but since then he's grown massively into the way we play as well, and I think we underestimate his ball playing ability as well. I
remember when who was it against? Maybe Brig. One of the early pre-season games. I remember seeing. I don't know if it was on PNA Online or on Twitter. Someone saying like he's awful on the ball. I'm thinking, what were you watching?
Yeah.
Like he's stepping out of the defence up into the midfield, and his vertical passing up through the lines was. You couldn't fault it really.
And him and Davis complement each other really well. I mean, you can't pass that. I mean, Story, and it's a little bit harsh on Story missing out so much this season so far. But back end of last season, it did fall.
I don't agree with that, to be honest. He's still a young kid. I think if anything, he was overplayed last season.
His form fell away, Jake, to be honest with you. 4 or 5 games last season.
By all accounts, he was playing with an injury toward the end of the season. Now, whether he actually was or not, I don't know. But that's what I've been told, that he was playing with an injury for the last sort of 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, which would tie in with how his form was. But I think if the manager had another centre-back available, I don't think he would have played as much toward the end of the season, because he had that run and then, like you said, his form dipped off, and it felt like you just kind of expected the manager to maybe just drop him and put Hunts in or something like that. But, I mean, the run of results that we had toward the end of the season, I don't think it would have made much difference anyway. And he could have given the lad a bit of a rest. But I think Story is being... I think he's being managed right at the moment.
Yeah,
that's my personal sort of take on it. It is a little bit harsh, maybe, but I think it's the right thing to do at the minute. He's still only 21, isn't he?
Yeah, and I mean Bauer seems a bit of an upgrade, in the nicest possible way. And yes, the Story's got a bright future in the game. For having a ball playing solid centre half like he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he will get game time, and we're not going to go 46 games of a season with the same two centre halves.
No.
It's just not going to happen. And he will get his chance. He's just got to take it with both hands more than anything.
Yeah, no, there's definitely options there. I think Bauer's just an example of what Story could become.
Yeah.
If he continues on the upward trajectory that he's currently on.
No, I agree with that.
So yeah, Swansea then. Obviously, you mentioned Raf. You got the goal. Little bit of a deflection in there as well. A little bit fortunate with that.
I think the keeper should do a little bit better as well when you watch it back.
But take nothing away from him.
He's been solid enough, hasn't he? I mean, the big things out of the Swansea game was, his 2 killer blows really in the first half. Losing Malt. It's obviously a season-ending injury.
Especially after his performance against Wigan.
Yeah.
Showed so much promise.
You just feel for the lad, really, don't you? I mean, his looks, he's just had no luck since he's been here. And I mean, he did his hamstring when he first came. Before
I think he had a run of maybe about 7 or 8 games, did he? And then that was it. His hamstring went and you barely saw him again.
Yeah. It probably didn't help him arriving injured either. I mean, when we got him from Motherwell, he arrived injured. He didn't actually play for the first few weeks anyway. I mean, was it Huddersfield away that first season? I remember him scoring. It might have been Sheff Wednesday, somewhere like that. I remember it was Yorkshire way and he slid in for the goal. And I mean, you think, especially after Forest last season, you're going to build on that. And then obviously dipped out the side, I think, when Stockley came.
It was around that time.
Yeah, and you just feel for him. And I mean, he's clearly worked hard to get into the position he's in, and the stuff he does off the pitch, you sort of want it to go right for him, especially with everything he's been through. And
I think that's why, for me personally, like I've never been a massive fan, but I've never I have knocked him. I'm not gonna lie.
But who's not? Honestly, who not on North End's fan base has not knocked him out?
Exactly.
Because we've all criticised him at some point, probably fairly at times, but absolutely. And I suppose this season you want it to work for him.
That was what I was gonna say. Was after his performance against Wigan, he looked to have improved all the areas that he was being criticised for. I don't think there was ever a question about his mobility. He could get around the pitch a lot more than Stockley does. But I think with Stockley, it was always a case of, well, he's a big lad, he's strong, but he doesn't move well, whereas Malt moves well, but he's not really able to hold the ball up as well. But he looked, in the Wigan game, he looked like he'd improved on that. He looked a lot... without wanting to sound offensive, he looked a lot more stockier, and like he'd put on a bit of beef, if you know what I mean.
For me, it looked a bit more ruthless as well. He was actually playing as a 9. Because last season, when he was playing as a 9, he kept drifting inside. He'd drop deep. He'd pull himself out wide where the ball. He sort of got attracted to the ball rather than actually staying within that channel of a 9. So you can actually, get in between the I suppose the second 6-yard boxes, you'd probably call it, to actually finish. And I mean, his goal against Stoke, which will come up, it wasn't Stoke, it was the Wigan game. He's actually got into that second 6-yard box, beating the man, great header, and that's where you want him to be. You don't want him to be drifting out wide to try and pick up the ball, and that was probably my biggest frustration with him. Last season when you want him to play as a 9, you want him to actually be attacking that box, and you look out and he's bloody stuck on the wing. It's like, what are you doing there? Get yourself in the freaking box. But
it was definitely an annoyance. The fact that for me, like, it felt like I'd be watching my under 14s sometimes. You're just watching, you're watching your centre forward, and he's, like you said, just chasing the ball.
Yeah, just drifts, and it's like, well, why are you there? And to be fair to him, for the games he played, he was where you want him to be as a centre forward.
Yeah, no, he definitely. Like I said, looked to have improved on the areas that he was getting criticised for from last season. Obviously got the goal against Wigan, drifted in between the two centre-backs. I think from a defensive point of view, probably not the best.
But they're not great at the back, Wigan. I mean,
no,
they weren't great all game, to be completely honest with you. But I mean, you've got to take your chances when you get presented them, haven't you? So, but I mean, coming back onto Swansea, I mean, conceding when we did was criminal. Right at the stroke of half time, and again, it was an issue of conceding from a wide area. All 3 goals have come from crosses that weren't dealt with, similar to the Millwall game. And I mean, the equaliser for one, when you watch it back, it's a joke, really. I mean, the right wing is just not closed down, and it's a finished cross goal, and all of a sudden it's one apiece, and injury time in the first half, and in a game that you've probably dominated.
They've not had a sniff, really, have they, in that first half?
Absolutely, and for the second you watch it back, it's a winner from midfield, similar to the Millwall game. Not being tracked, and then equalising through. It's a definite penalty. Let's be honest with you. And then for us to concede 90 seconds later, sorry, it's like, what are we doing?
The key points for me from the Swansea game, like you just mentioned, were the two goals that we conceded straight after scoring. Yeah. Well, no, the first one wasn't straight after scoring, but
the first one's on the brink of half time. Yeah. You're a minute away from going in 1-0. And it's a completely different team talk at 1 apiece than it is to 1-0. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I think second halves all season we've not been fantastic. There seems to be a bit of a change of the way we play. Forest, they came out as Forest did, but we tend to. I don't know if that's because we've stopped this high press, because we do look a little bit lethargic in second halves this season so far. But the Swans game, we didn't really create much once it went to 3-2. And they seem to see it out quite easily when they probably shouldn't have, given that how well we played that first half. So it's quite frustrating.
Yeah, no, it was, like you said, there's definitely a theme in terms of how our second halves are going. And I think even, obviously moving on to the Stoke game, even though they weren't particularly great, there was still an element of that as well. Obviously, I mean, if you've got a lead or if you've got a draw and you're away from home, you can always expect a team to come at you a little bit more in the second half, like Forest or like Swansea. But the Stoke game, we were 2-0 up in the second half. We just seemed to just plod along almost. It was weird.
Stoke really grew into the game, and
they did.
We blew Stoke away at times that first half, and it probably could have been more than 2. I mean, that midfield 3 of Pearson, DJ, and Galley were excellent for me. I mean, Harrods probably had his best game at that time on the left. He went quiet for me at 2-0, and when we were under the cosh, he did sort of go a little bit missing, not intentionally probably, but he just couldn't get his foot on the ball. He couldn't get into the game, and then it's one of those things in football, isn't it? Your quietest player then pops up and scores a third, and to be fair, it's game over really.
Yeah, but it was a good finish as well. To be fair,
yeah, I mean it's a good bit of work by DJ again. To obviously force a save, and then it's a good finish.
Comes to him, I think, on his left foot as well.
Yeah, and obviously he's drilled it into the ground across the keeper, into the corner. So good finish. But for me, the goal we conceded again is an undealt cross from our left back position.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a common theme, really. I don't think we've conceded 1 goal. I think from central play. Actually, there's only been 1 goal, and it was Forest really that's cut through the middle of us.
Yeah.
Everything else we're conceding from wide positions. But
wide, yeah.
Yeah, personally, that Stoke game, I thought Stoke. I think he's on borrowed time in terms of Nathan Jones. Personally, looking at their results, it continues to show. Really, I mean, Butland's nowhere near the team.
There's something going on there for me with Butland. You don't go from being third choice England keeper at a World Cup to being.
He's massively out up his arse.
Yeah.
I mean, the comments that Jones came out with after the game was very critical. It was like, this guy, he's clearly got something on his mind. I mean, you don't come out and bury your keeper like that for me. No. I mean, it's such a key area of the pitch.
For me, in how Jones is at Stoke at the minute, in terms of how he's dealing with the press, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a bit of Phil Brown and a bit of Graham Wesley.
Yeah.
In not necessarily in their style of play, but how he's coming across in the media, and just slating players.
It's quite victimy. It's not like it's actually his fault. I think he does need to look at himself in terms of this as well. I mean, he left Sam Vokes on the bench, proven quality at this level, cost him £7 million back in January. I mean, he's only 29. I mean, I thought Sam Vokes was older than that personally.
I thought it was about 32, 33.
Yeah, but he's 29, and I mean, you're leaving him on a bench for, I think it was Gregory and Hogan that they played up front. Neither did anything in total honesty. And I think
Vokes is, like you said, he's proven at this level, and obviously Hogan's had one decent-ish season with
Brentford,
yeah, and then he went to Villa, didn't he? And then there's Lee Gregory, who he's never really done that much in terms of being prolific at Millwall, I don't think.
He was a decent number 9.
Just very workmanlike, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'd have took him here because he'd have probably fit into our style of play. He might not score you 15, 20 goals a season, but he's probably a bit like Richard Cresswell in terms of his work rate. He'll probably, if he's in the right place, he'll probably score. You could probably put Louis Malt in that sort of place as well in terms of he'll work hard for you, he'll score his chances when he gets them, but he's not going to be prolific. So
yeah, I think it's like you said, he's definitely on borrowed time. I think is Nathan Jones.
It's a shame really, because I mean he did a cracking job with Luton, and don't get me wrong, Luton's budget at that level probably was fairly decent. Don't get me wrong, they've had to get past a few good teams to obviously get promoted out of League One, and we know ourselves it's not an easy league to get promoted out of.
Leeds a testament to that as well.
Yeah,
it's an interesting break for him. Managers, it just fits, doesn't it, at a certain club? I think there's maybe an element of that he's obviously gone in at Luton and it's just worked.
But Stoke's a bit of a poison chalice for me. You look at Gary Rowett, decent manager, but then it just didn't work for him at Stoke. I suppose they haven't been the same team as such since Pulis went. You look at Hughes has gone in there and
tried to change it, didn't he? Bringing people like Bojan and a few others from Spain, and I think when the DNA of a club is so cemented in a way like Pulis had it, it's hard
to change.
To just come in and change it like that.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the job that Graham Wesley did, and I use the word job very loosely in terms of obviously what he did, but he had to rip it up and start again, and he literally had to, the way he did it was wrong, but, his first season when he came in, he just literally had to completely start again.
Yeah.
And you look back at it, and it's probably, in hindsight, it's probably the right thing to do, but the way he did it was probably completely wrong. But for me, you've got a chief exec in Tony Scholes who we know far too, obviously well from his time here. I'm surprised he's let it happen at Stoke.
Yeah, seems odd. Very unusual.
Chef Wednesday.
Yeah, for me it was another strange one. We did play well for large parts of the game, but then obviously went 2-0 up, and it just felt like it was just going to not trundle on, but just peter out into just a comfortable 2-0 win. And then, like we've mentioned a million times already in this pod so far, got caught out wide, cross into the box. And to be fair to Stephen Fletcher, it was a brilliant header. But far too often, and again, this is just another example, we're just not dealing with crosses into the box at all.
He's made a career out of that, Stephen Fletcher. I mean, you watch it back, it's a great ball in by reach, but, Davis probably doesn't attack the ball as well, but to be fair, when you're probably keeping an eye on Fletcher at the same time, he's probably caught in two man's whether to attack the ball or attack the man.
Stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place, aren't you?
Yeah, but you know what? I thought it had a bit of a pre-season feel to it, first half especially. It was a weird game. The winger that's turned into a fullback in Adebayo, I think it is. Two silly penalties.
Yeah, you could tell that he wasn't comfortable in that position.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the first one. It's a long ball by Deck, isn't it? I think that's got a bit of a funny bounce.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it in the last pod that Stotley's attacked the ball, he's missed the ball, and then next minute it's in behind. And
he didn't even attack it. He just kind of ran about. I remember I watched the highlights in the morning before we recorded the pod, and he kind of just he was on the edge of the box and he moved about 10 yards away from the edge of the box toward the ball, and it just went over him. Didn't even attack it. Went over him and obviously bounced. Maguire's got his body in the way, and 2 seconds later it's a pen.
Yeah, and I mean the second one's just daft as well. I mean, you just don't like dive in like that in the penalty box, do you? Especially with someone that's nippy like Maguire is.
Credit to Maguire, and I think who was it that he was linking up with down that side
for the penalty, for the second penalty? Was it right? It came from a throw-in.
Yeah,
so I think it was Rafferty, then maybe Harrop into Maguire. I'll have to watch it back. But
yeah, whoever it was some decent link-up play, some nice little quick 1-2s, and obviously, like you said, someone who's nippy like Maguire, he just cut in front of Adebayo, or however you say his name, and he just flew in and brought him down completely. Yeah.
I mean, it's just silly. You don't need to dive in either. I mean, to be fair, he's got his 2 centre halves then to beat as well before he can get a shot in. So it's one of those, really, mate. It's daft. And I think Bullen came out after the game and said we've been beat by 2 mistakes. And to be fair, you can't really knock him.
Yeah, he's probably not too wrong, really, is it?
Yeah, I mean that in Hui or whatever he's called, the big lad that came on again.
Hui or whatever.
He must just love playing against us, because every time he plays against us, he absolutely runs the show for 15-20 minutes. I mean, I don't know if he's just a 15-20 minute man, but every time he comes on against us,
I reckon he is.
Oh God! I mean that run he went on when he sold Pearson a dummy. He's took on 4 players, and I think he was Story.
Fisher was hanging off his arm. Because it was right in front of me where I sit on the Finney. Fisher was hanging off his arm and he just wasn't shifting him. And he's just thinking, Jesus Christ. He reminded me of, do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Reminded me of the mountain off Game of Thrones. Just thinking, what is he? Just made out of brick.
Yeah. But to be fair, you look back at it, our resilience is it impressed me, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago we lose that game, or we concede, like we did 97th minute when Reach scored that screamer that year. Or
whatever it was.
Yeah, it was a pretty great strike, that. Yeah. But I mean, we drop points in previous seasons, but it's quite impressive that we are seeing the majority of games out when we are a little bit under the cosh. So
yeah, I think we'll come on to it in part 2, but I think another one of another example of our resilience is obviously the Forest game.
Yeah,
just happened. But we'll go into that in part 2. I think if you've got anything else to add, unless you've got anything else to add, sorry, I think we'll.
No, Sam, let's get a brew, mate.
Yeah, we'll do the break there. We'll call that part 1. Welcome back to part 2 of the From the Finney podcast. So in this part, we're going to talk about the remaining 2 games of the month that we've not covered yet. We'll also talk about our shortcomings in the transfer window this summer. As we've already mentioned, inability to defend crosses properly. DJ, Harrop, Stockley, and also the transfer window closing around Europe as well. We'll go in with round 2 of the Carabao Cup, Hull City at home. Another odd one, I think, a bit like the Sheff Wednesday game. Just felt it probably helped by the fact that there was a low crowd, which you would expect for a midweek Carabao Cup game, but it just felt a bit like a pre-season.
Yeah, it was a bit of a game of 2 hours as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, first half. Could have been 3 or 4 rather than just a 2 before they obviously before they got the goal back. And I think losing Barkey was a big blow, to be fair, at the break. I mean, and obviously he could be out for a few more weeks yet. But
I think he'll be back in training after the international break.
Yeah. So, and to be fair, in Forest especially, we probably missed him quite a lot. In terms of obviously playing as that mobile number 9. And I mean, when Stockley came on at half time, it just left us short up front. He was immobile.
He changed the game for all the wrong reasons, didn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, against Sheff Wednesday, I think you alluded to it in the last podcast, it was 6 completed passes and he probably was more used at centre half. And I mean, it just wasn't great from him. I mean,
he lost possession 21 times that game.
Yeah, just not good enough. I mean, and I don't know. This isn't knocking the lad at all, but I don't know if the step up from, I suppose, the level he's been playing at to ours is right. It's a massive step these days. I mean, yeah, it worked for the likes of Nugent in the past. Stepping up, and I mean, he's 25. I mean,
yeah, he's not
25. No, he's, but he should be more mobile at 25 than that. I mean,
he makes everything look slow. I don't know if it was I think it was the Sheff Wednesday game. He got fouled on the edge of the box and going down. I'm thinking like, fucking hell, how have you not hit the deck already?
Yeah, I mean,
it looks like just ridiculously slow, even falling. Yeah, I mean, I've made no bones of the fact that I'm not really a fan. And like you said before, it's nothing personal, nothing against the lad. Obviously, I don't know him, but from what I see in terms of performances week in, week out, I'm not too keen, to be honest. And yeah, the Hull City game, he came on and he changed the game for all the wrong reasons. Nothing stuck whatsoever.
And
it was all down to him, really, that everything was coming back at us.
You need if you're going to play with a target man, you need someone who's going to hold the ball up. And I mean, when we got him, what was the stat that he'd won the most aerial battles in Europe or something like that? That's just centre halves had him in his pocket all game. Yeah. And I mean, he just didn't do anything that was positive. And I mean, I sort of felt a bit sorry for Ledson because Ledson had a great game and he's starting to look a little bit about like the player that we expected him to be when he first came in. And Harrop, good finish for the goal, was promising throughout. And I think we've got to throw in here about the saves that Ripley made at 2-1.
Yeah, there was a double save, wasn't there, at one point?
Yeah, there was a really good double save in the second half. Then, I mean, it's a bit like we've said before, but you keep it tight those last few minutes. You don't give Bowen the time and space in the box because a player like Jared Bowen's ability is going to hurt you. I mean, it's no wonder that clubs are sniffing after him because he came on and he looked lively.
It's a surprise to me anyway that he's still there, to be honest.
Yeah, there's the other lad as well that didn't get on that, Grasicki. Yeah. And
I expected one of them to leave in the summer, definitely, but the fact that they've still got both of them, I think it probably gives them half a chance of a decent mid-table finish.
And to be fair play to them because they've not. They've hit a bit of financial trouble. I know, but to be fair, I do like Grant McCann. He plays attacking football generally.
Yeah.
In second half, it showed. The fact that they came at us.
Second half reminded me of Doncaster in the FA Cup last year.
Yeah.
It was clear to see there the way that McCann sets his teams up and the way that he likes them to play. But yeah, I think credit to Hull, to be fair, in the second half. I think as much as we say we were probably a little bit disappointed not to maybe have had another goal or two on the board come half time, I think Hull would probably have felt a little bit hard done by to have not have had maybe another couple of goals on come full time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, taking it to penalties, it's a bit of a lottery at that point, isn't it? But running that risk, but on the plus side, great draw in the next round as host Man City, and I'm sure you'll preview that later in the month. But it gets a bit
because I'm not here. Yeah, I'm on honeymoon.
But it's I think it's a great time. Obviously, it's got people excited as well. It's got people talking about Preston again, which you want in the town, and it's something that we probably, as a club, don't do enough of. But you've got to give a bit of credit to the club at this point because they've got the ticket strategy and the way they're launching the tickets spot on for me. And I think they do deserve a lot of credit with the Brentford game.
Yeah, I think they've definitely nailed it with the way that they've rolled the tickets out, because there was, I think within 10, 15 minutes of the draw being made, there was people on Twitter saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, the club need to do this run this particular system, or, you buy tickets for this game or that game and you get priority access to a City ticket, and to an extent they've done that. So I think you're not going to keep everyone happy, you never are as a football club, but I think they've ticked a lot of boxes for me, definitely.
Yeah, and they deserve credit for that as well. And we probably criticise them quite a lot, especially on social media, for a few of their misgivings. But I think they've got this one right.
Yeah, they have, and I think the criticism as well is maybe a little bit harsh sometimes. I know Hannah, the girl that works on the media team with Ben, there's just the two of them as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, no, and those two especially, deserve a lot of credit. Yeah, and definitely. I mean, you've got two passionate Preston fans within your club there. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think they make all the decisions, and I think a lot of the decisions are made above their heads, which we're probably both more than aware of. But they've got the ticketing strategy for this one spot on, and they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. It's not often I'll say that on the pod either.
No, exactly. And I'm the same, mate. And we criticise them when I suppose we don't feel something's right. But when we do feel that something that should be applauded, it should be actually recognised that done definitely. It right. So,
so the last you are
on to Saturday.
Yeah, on to Saturday. I said to Ollie, I think at half time. Anyway, I said to Ollie at some point, I'd take a point still from this, and he was like, I wouldn't. I think. Now, considering that it was the 81st minute, was it, that we conceded? Something like that? 80th minute? 78th minute? I don't know. Considering it was that late on that we conceded, I am a little bit peed off that we didn't see it out. And that resilience that we've spoken about earlier in the pod that we started to show a lot more of wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was in parts, obviously, because we still came away with a point, and there's not been a draw at the City ground for 9 months.
I think for me, we've got to give them a little bit of credit as well. And they were poor first half for us, and we should have been more than 1-0 up at the break. And it's typical us. It came to bite us. Late on in the second half, but you've got to take your chances when you're on top of the game, and we could have gone in probably 2 goals up. I think it would have probably been fair given how we played first half, but I thought we looked a little bit leggy second half. Having a lack of mobility from the bench, with us obviously missing Maguire and Barkey and Malt, who could all lead the line, didn't help us when I suppose Bodin just ran out of gas. And in all honesty, the goal that we've conceded, there's obviously a hint of offside, and it's the first time that teams come to us. Yeah, it's the first time a team's come to us all season, to be honest with you, Jake. It's like, you got to look back at it and think, well, we're 6, 7, 8 games in, and that's the first time we've conceded a goal that's come through the middle of the park. And let's put it together. Carvalho, the lad they put on, was 13 million quid.
Our squad's not even in.
It's more than our squad put together, isn't it? And I mean, a Dome who scores it, proven quality at this level. He's been promoted 2 or 3 times. He's a good player, and a good free transfer that they got in the summer. And I think the lad Sal, that was their sponsors man of the match, coming at half time, he had a great game in the middle of the park. I mean, everything seems to go through him second half.
And they've got a good keeper as well in
Sam. Yeah. He impressed me, actually. He made 2 or 3 good saves. He's quite commanding. I mean, obviously they got Muric, didn't they, in the summer ahead of us. And they got Muric with the pretense that he was going to be their number 1. And obviously he drops them 2 clangers the first game against West Brom, and next minute they bring this lad in from, I think he's from France, isn't he?
He's from Liga or somewhere like that.
Yeah, so I don't know what club he's come from, but he comes highly rated, and to be fair, you can sort of see why, because I thought he was quite commanding, to be fair. He's good with his feet, made 2 or 3 good saves first half, but I mean the flip side of it, mate, they had 2 shots on target all game. One's down Deck's throat, which he parries away, and the other one's the goal. So it's a little bit disappointing from that point of view, because to be fair, on reflection, we probably deserved to come out with 3 points. Given our first half and given that we have kept them at bay. They've got.
No, like I said, I said to Ollie that I'd have taken a point, but I think if I'm going to be honest with myself, then I'm probably disappointed that we didn't come away with all 3. I've not watched the game back, but from what I've read and from what I've been told, and obviously you just reiterated that with what you said about the first half, that we're probably unfortunate maybe not to have gone in 2-0 up.
Yeah, no, I think we were, and I mean it's one of those things really. I mean, it's not happened to us this season so far, apart from potentially Swansea, where we're throwing away points.
Yeah.
But you can't criticise them too much, to be honest. I think it's a positive month, especially after Millwall, when we came off that game and we thought, bloody hell, this is going to be a long season, because you looked at our record in the transfer window up to that point, and you thought, we're short.
Yeah.
And quite badly short, to be honest with you. But then the qualities come through, and I mean, one of the lads, I don't know if it was Ollie or the other chap, he mentioned, in the pre-season pod, the last pod before the Millwall game, that we have got enough quality and we should be looking at top 6 side. And I was like, I thought, has he drank something before he's done this? Because I thought, no, we're nowhere near. And I thought we'd probably be lucky to improve on last season, because I thought the league did improve. But
Ollie wrote a piece for the website about how this was the chance of a lifetime in terms of the amount of managers that have come in that have no experience at this level, the amount of teams that have lost key players, us included in that. There's a lot of, I think this season is the most in maybe 2 or 3 years that there's been EFL players going up to the Prem.
Yeah.
So obviously with the majority of them being from the Championship. So there's been a lot of change in terms of personnel, whereas we've managed to remain quite consistent. We've got the same manager who's going into, is this his 3rd full season now, or his 4th?
Yeah, with us, 3rd season.
3rd season with us. We've got the core group of a squad in Brown, Davis, Rudd, even though Rudd's got his shortcomings, Maguire, Barkey, DJ, Galley, all been here for 2-3 years. They know how the manager wants to play, and I think Ollie was right in saying what he said. I think in that we've got the core group of a good enough squad that 2 seasons ago saw us finish 7th.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at last season, we were unlucky. With the injuries that we had, well, were we unlucky, or was it bad management in terms of the fitness side of things? You can make your own judgment.
Time will tell if something similar happens again this season.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it this season in terms purely from a numbers point of view, it looks bad. But you take out Maguire with his eye injury, can't do anything about that.
It's a freak injury, isn't it?
Take out Louis Moult with his knee, can't really do anything about
that.
Yeah. Clark, I think, was knee as well. And then you've got Fisher. Who else is out? Barkey.
Hughes is hamstring. That's probably the main one, isn't it, in terms of actual...
Hughes, Fisher and Barkey. I don't know anything about Fisher, but I'm going to presume that it's a soft tissue one.
Yeah.
Probably really got 3 injuries there.
Nugent, which
Nugent.
I mean, he's not actually been fit, has he? So I think we all forget about him. I mean, we talk about the missing 3 in terms of Malt, Barkey, and Maguire from Saturday, but you could probably took a 4th one in terms of Nugent but we haven't actually seen him yet. I mean, we played 45 minutes at Fleetwood, and it was
played a bounce game as well and came off the bounce game because of his calf, and he's never been involved since.
I mean, we sort of have to think about, was it, it's not nostalgia, brilliant, it's lovely to have him back and everything, but is he going to be able to take us on to the next level? I don't know. I mean, saying that.
And I mean, myself and the other 2 lads, Dan and Ollie, we've had plenty of back and forwards on Nugent, both on the pod and chatting amongst ourselves on WhatsApp, whatever, Facebook. And when it happened, really, I was buzzing. But I think you strip away the nostalgia, and it's an awful signing. Signing a 34-year-old striker who scored 2 goals last year,
Yeah.
That if that was someone from Fulham or I don't know, Leeds or something like that would have signed, people
I'm
would
not,
have been fuming.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's an awful signing because it's whilst on paper it doesn't look great. I mean, his stats for last season, whilst he's obviously played as he's tended to be played more wide, or he wasn't he was a focus point at times, but he wasn't the out and out striker. I mean, goals were coming from everywhere in that Derby team last season, and I feel a little bit harsh saying he was, I suppose, he wasn't there as a number 9 as such last season. I just felt he was a little bit. I mean, he played a lot of games for Derby last season in a side that got to the playoff final.
You can't overlook that.
So, I mean, yeah, I know he was missing for. I think could he get injured in the first playoff leg? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously missed the final, and he's had to adapt. He's not going to be the player that he was when we first had him. No. Because he's had to adapt his game.
Completely on pace with me, had him, and you would assume that he's not got as much of that anymore.
But he still works. He still works his socks off, and I suppose that's always been one of his standout qualities. He'd always give you 100% in every game because, and that's the type of person he is. And I mean, at 34, he played 31 games for Derby last season. 2 goals. Yeah, and I mean,
don't get me wrong. Like I said, you take away the nostalgia and everything out of it, and maybe I was a little bit harsh saying it was a shit signing, but I still don't think it's a good signing.
There's better players we could have got. Personally,
yeah, there definitely is, but you can't you can't take the nostalgia away from it because it's David Nugent.
Yeah,
and the affinity that he has with the club. So I'm not looking at it as a shit signing, if you will.
Yeah,
Do you get the point that I'm trying to make?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, it's you look at what else was out there and what you could have got. Yeah. And I mean, I look back not at this transfer window, but previous transfer windows. So our refusal to sign Kiefer Moore for £1.5 million. Yeah. 12 months ago, this season he's gone for £3 million. Shock horror. We've, and that was the point we bought Stockley. So it's like we always go for the cheap option, which frustrates me because you get Stockley for £750,000, but you can spend an extra £750,000. You get a player that's probably going to be twice as good. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not ripped it apart for Wigan just yet, but you don't have that sort of record at Barnsley and not be a decent sort of player.
Yeah.
And he looked handful when he came on against us.
He did. He looked like he was capable of troubling us, definitely. Yeah. I just think the rest of the Wigan team were a bit naff.
Yeah. At the back, they were really poor. But I think in terms of the window, and obviously I know we had this as a point. We're all disappointed. Let's be honest, because especially after bringing in the money that we have for Robinson, the previous windows, Hugh Gilland, Cunningham, have we reinvested it? I think I worked out we invested about $8.5 million of it, in terms of out of 21 million. Yeah. So there's a surplus there of 12.5 million. We spend 2, and that includes signing Bayliss.
1.8-ish.
Yeah, up to 2, I think it is, isn't it? In terms of obviously with add-ons, but
yeah, it's not. Well, as far as I'm aware, the initial fee hasn't broken our record.
Yeah, that's
I think overall it will end up breaking the record, but
yeah, obviously on appearances and
if he gets there,
if he breaks in. I mean, I just think personally, £1.6 million or whatever the initial fee is a lot to spend on a 20-year-old that we didn't need.
Yeah, completely unproven. Which, when you think we were crying out for a striker like you just mentioned, Kiefer Moore last summer, and we wouldn't pay 1.5 for him.
Yeah, I just find that a little bit misguided, and I don't know who's making that decision.
Yeah,
if it's the manager, then it's at his door.
It's a really odd thing because there's been all that talk. When was it that he signed his new deal? April last year that the gaffer signed his new contract.
But April the 13th, weren't it? The day of the West Brom game. Well,
yes, it was. Which is £500 million at my girlfriend, wife, even because it was her birthday that day. So yeah, it was April 13th.
Yeah. He went from being that West Brom game. Christ, you look back at that from last season. I mean, the fiasco leading up to it, and then the performance on the day, and then he was pretty much dead to me that night. And next minute, he's next day you wake up with a stinking hangover because you've actually, we had a good day out for West Brom, because you sort of have to, don't you, when you see that sort of football. And I mean,
just got to focus on anything but the football, aren't you?
Yeah, and then next minute you get a text 8:30 in the morning. You sign a contract. I'm like, what do you mean you sign a contract? I'm thinking it's like someone else. And next minute it comes out that Alex Neil signed a 3-year contract. I'm like,
what?
I'm like, Ridsdale's just said we don't give out 3-year contracts at a fan forum, and next minute we've give out a 3-year contract. It's like, what are we doing? But
there was, at the time, there was obviously a lot of talk that he'd been given assurances. Now, I've not heard anything either way about this, so I don't know. But at this point, with the summer that we've just had, you have to actually wonder if he ever was given assurances. Because if he was, you'd like to have thought that they would have been transfer related in terms of incomings and him being backed. And there's no question that he hasn't been backed. If he was promised things and he's not been given them, I know for a fact that if that was me, I would be absolutely fuming. Yeah. Now, he might not want to walk away from the job. Probably doesn't, because of the money.
Well, it says he's settled around here, hasn't he? I mean, his kids are in school. He's got a fairly decent pad, where he lives, just outside of Preston. Yeah. And he seems settled. He does seem happy here. I mean, he's a workaholic from what I've heard. He's probably one of the first in and last out at the training ground. Yeah. And his staff are quite similar to that as well, and that's one of the reasons allegedly that Alan Kelly's no longer with the club, because obviously of the working hours. But I mean, you look at the players that's been brought in, are they all his choice? I don't know. I'd probably guess it. Some are, some aren't.
Some aren't.
But
I can't remember who it was. Someone tweeted on Saturday, I think, about incomings, and I think I asked the question of, well, you're making the presumption that, I think it was about Stockley. I think I'd tweeted from the Finney account saying that it's not a very good reflection on Stockley if he's our only fit and available striker, and the manager's starting a wide player up front ahead of him in Bowden. And someone said, well, why has he signed him? And I think especially knowing how the club work when it comes to signing players, I think that's a big assumption to make, that it was an Alex Neil signing.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Stockley's record, it's good in League Two. It's not great anywhere else. I mean, I think he'd played 21 games in League One and scored 1 goal, earlier in his career. Yeah. I mean, it's just, for me, that for paying £750,000 for any player it's got to be pretty, especially from League Two. I mean, you look at the lad, who was the lad at Accrington that went to Ipswich that didn't do anything? The centre forward.
Caden Jackson.
That's him. Yeah, so he went for £1 million, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You've got to, if they're League Two, you've got to be sure. And I mean, I don't think Stockley fits in how we play.
No, he doesn't. People have this very narrow view or narrow look on football and positions, and the amount of people that I've seen saying it's not a game for Stockley, it's not a game for Stockley. The manager said that there'll be some players who play and some players who don't, whether it's the right game or not. I just think that's a very narrow, and you can tie it back to the links with Hugo in the summer. Yeah, people saying, "Oh, we don't need a target man. We've got Stockley."
But Hugo's not a target man.
He's not. They're completely different players, and I think obviously people have their favourite players and all that sort of stuff. But I think there just comes a point where you have to see I can't remember the phrase. You have to see the whatever for whatever it is.
The wood from the trees, I think is the phrase looking for. Yeah.
And he's just not up to it. He really isn't.
It's a shame because, I mean,
he's probably looks nice lad.
Yeah, probably is, but nice lads don't get you anywhere, really, do they? No. Let's be honest. I mean, he's 25, and I mean, I just don't. last couple of games, he's actually seemed like he's got a little bit of passion about him, but it's like he wants a bit to just to knock centre halves rather than actually play against them. He's got a bit of aggression about him. I don't mind that, but you've got to channel it in the right way. And it seems more frustration than anything. It looks like he's just going to do something daft in a minute and get a 3-game ban. That's my concern.
Yeah.
Because frustration will get you, only take you so far, won't it?
He's shown, especially against Hull, that he's a bit of a whinger as well. Throwing his arms around. And...
Who did he do it to? Was it Green? I think Green played a ball into him. They just didn't have the pace on it, and he's just throwing a bit of a strop in the middle of the park. I thought, all right, okay, this is.
There was a few to the ref as well. I think he thought he'd been fouled, and he gets up and his arms out and all this sort of stuff, pointing his finger at the ref, and you're just thinking, just stop. You're making a tit of yourself.
Yeah,
you're not playing well, so don't make the situation worse. What the thing is, from a fan's point of view, you can be sat in the crowd, and a player can say something to a referee and be aggrieved, and you'll have no idea because you won't hear it.
Yeah.
The minute he starts throwing his arms around, waving his hands around, whether that's to the ref or to another player, I think, especially if it's to another player, it pisses me off a little bit, winds me up a little bit, because there's no need. If you've got an issue, say something.
It breeds negativity.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, and you don't need that on a pitch. I mean, you want players that are in it together. And don't be wrong. If it's you just don't need someone like throwing their arms about when they've had a misplaced pass. Well, just if it's not coming to your feet, well, get it to your feet next time. Actually do something about it rather than just throwing your arms around and just not doing anything about him.
Yeah,
he's just not. For me, he doesn't. He's playing like he doesn't want it enough. He's not getting himself. He's not working himself into positions. And if you've got someone like that that's just going through the motions, then let's be honest, it's probably not going to work out from long term. Which is frustrating.
A little bit like he thinks he's hit the jackpot.
Well,
he's coming from
probably as with the contract he's on.
Yeah, he's probably on decent wedge compared to what he would have been on at Exeter. What, maybe 2-3 grand a week at Exeter, doubled if not more here.
Yeah.
And he's just quite happy with that.
Yeah, I agree, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, I think the one thing I think to end that on Stockley is it's up to him. I think now to show what he can do. There was times last season, obviously, when we had 11, 12 injuries, whatever it was, that players stepped up to the plate, and I think considering that we've got one striker.
Yeah,
I think it's on the onus is on him now, because I think more and more fans are starting to realise that he's perhaps not up to it. I mean, I don't actually think he is up to it. I've made my mind up already, but
it's one of those. I mean, look at the games after the break. They're quite key, especially if Nugent's going to come back into the fold. Maguire will be back fit by then. He's got to step up. It's step up or step out for me, because you're going to have people knocking on that door. And from a manager's point of view, I'm sure that it's probably a welcome position to be in for the manager. To actually have players that want to play, but you've got to be able to actually perform on the day. And I mean, you look at the Brentford game, the first game back. That's not going to be an easy game. No. And we've got a tough little run of games on the slide. Birmingham away, and then obviously the cup game against City, and then Bristol City at home. I mean, that's not an easy September for me.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. I think the City one, you can...
It's a free hit.
It's a free hit, isn't it, really? But an embarrassing defeat and a really bad performance, and it goes from being a free hit to, well, we never actually really showed up.
Yeah, it depends on the team he puts out, because, and I'm sure you'll come on to this in a later pod, but, he could mix it up. And I suppose it's one of the good things about Neil this season. I think he's playing a team for the occasion as such. So he's picking for me, I don't think he's got his team selection wrong yet. Touch wood, he's not going to do that, during
as bizarre as it's been at times.
Absolutely. I mean, I said he'd banged his head when we beat, I think it was Stoke 3-0. It was the Stoke game. I said he's banged his head here. I think it was was it Maguire was out with concussion or something like that? And I said, he's not the only one who's banged his head. Because you look at the team, you're thinking, what have we done here?
Yeah, Clark in it right back, and Barkey up top.
Yeah, and Clark had a solid 40 minutes. I know obviously he's done his knee, but he was solid enough in the 40 minutes he was on.
Oh yeah, it was.
Come on, and
it was one of them that at the time that Fisher had played well the week before or on Saturday, and you didn't really see any reason for him to drop him and bring Clark in. It wasn't
needed.
Yeah,
but you look back at it, and if it was 90 minutes of Fisher up against McLean, then one of them's going to get a red. If not both, because you've got two head cases that are up against each other for 90 minutes. That would not have ended pretty. And I mean,
there's only so many times that they can clash.
Yeah, it was bad enough for 50 minutes of them trying to kick lumps out of each other. Never mind an hour, an hour and a half of it.
Yeah, but, if Neil's had the foresight to look at that and go, well, I'm going to avoid this situation by dropping Fisher and putting Clark in, then fair play to him.
Yeah.
But I think on that Stoke game, trying to do 2 points in one here. You got Harrop and DJ, both on. DJ was on the score sheet, wasn't he? Scored pen.
Stoke game. Just trying to remember it off the top of my head. Yes.
No, it wasn't a pen.
No, it wasn't.
Shot from the outside of the box. First one.
Yeah, it was the game where Jack Butland decided he didn't want to really be a goalkeeper anymore. And to be fair to DJ on that goal, I think it's his touch that sets him up.
Yeah.
Because it's drilled in. I mean, it's a great touch, and then to give Butland a little bit of credit, and this is the tiniest bit I can give him. It skids up at him, and it's at pace, and he's got two hands to it, and he should parry it away. But they're hard to deal with. Them. I mean, you see it week in week out in leagues that are better than ours. When it's skidding up and it's
when it's hitting to the ground and that sort of down and quickly up fashion.
They're hard to deal with. And I mean, it's a good finish for me. I think, you could probably look at the keeper, and we said when we saw on the big screen, as soon as he scored, it was like, well, keeper,
Yeah.
But
if that was Rudd, he'd have been absolutely hung out to dry.
We need to talk about Rudd, and I think we're going to talk about it with Gold in a bit. But he's improved.
Yeah, no, he definitely has.
Maybe not as much as DJ.
Come on to him.
Yeah, maybe not as much as DJ, because DJ's been player of the month by a long way, let's be honest. And I mean, the big issue that we've all had with DJ is that he's consistently inconsistent. But this month, and I know it's only a month, but
the thing is that you say that, but in the past 2 seasons, we've not even got 2 weeks out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that Birmingham game. Probably, God, it must be 2 years.
I think it was Neil's first season, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he ripped it apart at Birmingham away, and when we won 3-1 with Hugh Gill bagging as well, that deflected effort, he ran it, and I mean, I think he got booked for giving the Blues quite a bit of stick in that corner next to the away end. But he ran that game. Him and Robinson, and to be fair, we've probably not seen the best out of him over the past 2 years. And
no, I don't think we have.
I don't know whether that's because of the stuff he's had. He's had a kid in that time, or what. Or the contract issue that he had last season. I think there's a lot of different factors played a part, and
playing deep going on that we don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, playing deep's not helped him.
No,
because he's not a sort of a 4 or an 8. He's a 10. We've seen that. And I think it's credit to Neil. I mean, it took balls dropping Brown. Don't get me wrong, Brown wasn't great against Millwall.
Apart from that, finish the season that well, to be honest, did he?
I think since he's become a little bit more of a regular in the Island setup, and I still don't think it helps him not having an agent. I know that sounds strange, but he's not got an agent to chuck himself out there, and he's probably thinking he's a little bit better than he is now. And
possibly.
But he probably does need someone to give him that advice. Is get your head down a little bit, lad. You want to sort of set up here, then this is your chance. But the games is, and utilising him as a right back at the minute isn't probably ideal for him either.
No, it's definitely not.
But where else can you fit him in? Because he's not going to get ahead of Pearson, Galley, or DJ at this moment in time.
No, I think as long as those three are fit and still firing. None of them are out of the team for me.
No. And DJ's been excellent. I suppose you can't take that away from him. From a guy that's gone from being, he'd go missing in some key games, he'd give the ball away cheaply, he wouldn't put a tackle in, he wouldn't work hard. All the key issues that we've had with him over the years.
Yeah.
And he seems to have fixed that. He's got his head down. He seems quite screwed on this season.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I don't know whether maybe it is something to do with the fact. Maybe it is to do with the fact that he's had a kid, or you just don't know. Maybe it's his contract. Maybe he feels a little bit more settled now. There's a million different things that it could be, but it could also just be a simple fact that the gaffer's playing him in his position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how it's one of those. He's always had the ability. No one's ever questioned his ability. His decision making and his final ball can sometimes be questioned.
Yeah.
He can't tackle. I don't know if you've noticed it yourself.
No, he definitely can't.
So I remember his first game for us. It was the first game of the season. Forgot who we were playing, but he's within 20 seconds he smashed a lad on the halfway line. The lad's gone off about 4 minutes later.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
So and he's never been able to tackle. He tackles like leads and little bit wild. But he's developing as a player. Probably the last season, having last season out, it's probably developed him as a person as well, because those sort of setbacks can improve people, and improve.
Yeah, from a mental point of view, they're massive as to how you as a person react to them.
Yeah, he's got to take his chance now, because he probably realizes that this is being a professional footballer is probably a once in a lifetime opportunity. The fact that you can change your life by playing 90 minutes on a Saturday is amazing. And to be fair to him, he seems to have taken that grasped that with both hands, especially in the games that he's played since Bradford.
Yeah, 3 starts, 3 goals.
You can't knock it. Really. No, he didn't score against Forest, did he? He started against Forest.
3 games, 3 goals.
Yeah, so. You know what? Fair play to him, because he's taken the opportunity, and I think after the international break, the manager's got a bit of a problem on his hands with the players he's got available, because he's back to pretty much full strength, give or take. Obviously Malta aside.
Yeah, I don't think Barker will be back straight away. Obviously,
no. Clark's out for 8 weeks, isn't he? So he's probably 2 or 3 missing at that point, but he's not massively stretched in terms of injuries at that point.
No. Well, you chuck. Even just chucking Maguire, and even if Nugent's maybe, I don't know, maybe he's able to be involved in the match day squad. Just chucking them back in, it improves us compared to where we're at now with utilising the likes of Bowden up front. And I'm not saying that, I don't want that to come across as saying it in a moany way, but
I think I think there'll be a lot of rotation. And I think that having an interchangeable four as a, or even sort of a left, right, and a centre in terms of your centre forward, being interchangeable. So if it's Bowden, Barkes, and Maguire, Nugent could do any of those 4 positions. Green, who we've probably not seen enough of yet to make a judgment. You've got quite a bit of quality up there, and I've probably missed a couple as well, to be honest with you. That could actually play up there.
Yeah,
and having interchangeable quality as a 3 behind, in front of the likes of DJ, Pio, and Gallagher, you'll have Fisher and Hughes bombing back on then. We look strong, and despite the negativity about the transfer window and going over all ground, so to speak, but we've actually got a decent squad.
Yeah, I think going back to the point that we both covered earlier with Ollie's piece on the website. We've got a good core, and I think all fans, but I feel like our fans in particular, can be guilty of getting swept up in transfer frenzy, if you will. And I know we've not really held back, if you will, our thoughts on the transfer window, but I think it can be perceived as being negative from the club. Spurs last season, prime example.
Yeah.
Didn't bring anyone in, finished in 3rd, I think, and got to the final of the Champions League. I'm not saying we're going to go on and get to the final of the FA Cup and finish 3rd in the league, but sometimes it can be not too bad a thing to not disrupt your squad greatly.
No, I agree, and I suppose we're frustrated, and I think it comes back. I know it sounds really odd, but we're Northerners. We like a bit of a moan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're known for moaning up here, and I suppose it's probably within our DNA in a way. But yeah, we are frustrated that we didn't get a left back because we were crying out for one after letting one go out on loan, and Hughes had a couple of injury knocks last season. We're probably entitled to a bit of a moment because the only striker that we got in that when we needed one was a 34-year-old.
And our top scorer from last season go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it probably didn't help. We all probably moan, and then the club come out at 3 minutes past 5 on deadline day and said, the summer transfer window now closed. We take a look at the comings and goings in recent months. So, well, not really ideal, is it? That's just expert trolling more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, so that probably doesn't help the cause either. So, I'll come back to the club piece. There's got to be a bit of give and take. Don't go and troll us as paying customers, and then, when we've not reinvested like we probably should have. But especially in the position, we were crying out for left back. I mean, I could go on about it all the time, and I played till I'm blue in the face. But
it was criminal. It was absolutely criminal to. I mean, I think I'd been told a few days earlier that Earl was as good as done to Bolton.
Yeah, which was needed. He needs game time because
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But at that point, it looked like we still had a chance of bringing Max Lowe in.
Yeah.
And then it was, I think Earl got announced. I got a message saying Lowe's not happening. And it was like, well, what the fuck are we going to do for a left back then?
Why have we just sent out a left back?
Yeah.
But it stems from not getting Bidwell. I mean, the Bidwell deal was
as good as done.
Yeah. And then Swansea came in with an extra $5,000 a week. And it's like, great. So we can't compete with that. And that's frustrating. I mean, don't get me wrong, Swansea are doing well this season. And you look at them, and I think he's slotted straight in, hasn't he, at left back?
Yeah.
Well.
Against us, didn't he?
Yeah. So quality is hard to get in the Championship. And I mean, if you have the opportunity to get a left back that's proven from Brentford, from QPR, that's looked the part for every club he's played for, then when we need one,
player.
Get him in. I mean.
Neil was going on and on and on about experience, and he ticked that box. He's about what, 26, 27?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, he's not old, but he's experienced. I mean, the amount of games he's played at this level is ridiculous, and he's from up here. I mean, he's from Southport. So why would he? Yeah. He came through the ranks at Everton. So
26 years old.
Yeah. So it's for $5,000 a week. I mean, it's daft really that we've not got a player of that ability in that's played, probably a couple of hundred of league games.
Just probably.
Well, it's 300 games he's played. He's played over 300 games.
Yeah.
Including his 2 stints at Brentford. Well, 2 loans at Brentford, and obviously signed permanently, and then QPR.
20 games for QPR, and then obviously whatever he's got, 6 for Swansea this season.
Yeah, I mean that's criminal. You can't, the fact that we've not gotten a player of that ability when we've had the chance to is a shame. Let's put it that way.
For the sake of $5,000 as well. I mean, I know it's all right for me to say that when I'm not putting my money in to the club like Hemmings is, but like you said, when we're crying out for a player in that position and someone like Jake Bidwell comes along.
Yeah. But you can save $5,000. You can save $5,000 in other areas. And I know we've got a very tight wage structure, and I know it's very structured in terms of wages, and that we've got a cap, and we're not going to go above it. And to be fair, I can't really criticise that with the problems in football at the moment.
No,
you look at some of the teams that are getting around FFP and the other issues,
the stadiums and all that.
If we did that, come on, there'd be uproar. We'd be absolutely fuming. If Emmys sold the stadium to himself and said, that's £20 million, well, we've just lost the stadium.
Yeah.
And a lot of these clubs in the lower leagues completely go
off. They're the longest continually used stadium by a club in the Football League as well.
It's possibly in Europe, potentially. I think there's a stat that
it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been football at Deepdale since 1880 when we were formed, pretty much. Yeah. I think it might be 1882 or something like that. Deepdale was used as a ground. it's really funny you mentioned that, actually, because I'm meeting a guy who's writing another book on Deepdale and the history of North End at weekend.
All right.
So I'll ask him that question.
Yeah.
It's something different, and yeah, I mean, we could talk about the problems in the EFL all week, in terms of obviously the mess that Sean Harvey's left, but and it's a shame, obviously, everything that's happened at Bury in the past week. But
I think we could have a 5-hour long podcast about that.
Yeah, I digress, mate. So
all right. Yeah, I think the final one then before we wrap up is that issue that we've mentioned time and time again, which is the seeming inability to deal with crosses. Now, you mentioned before about Rudd, and I have been one of his biggest critics. He has improved. I think there's no question as to whether that's to do with Jonathan Gould coming in or not. I don't think it's any coincidence.
Experience must help. Because
there's no question, and it's not a slight on Jack Cudworth. I'll never understand people that slate him. He's obviously good at doing his job because he's employed by the football club.
Yeah.
And you alluded to Alex Neil's work ethic before. Jack obviously fits in with what Alex Neil wants, and Alex Neil's obviously happy with him. So I'm never going to knock him and say that it's him that that he's the reason Rudd has played like he has. But like you say, I don't think there's any question that experience coming in that department has helped. I think as well, Bauer coming in, he's a little bit more assured when it comes to aerial battles and aerial duels and all that sort of stuff. So I think he's maybe lending a helping hand in terms of Rudd's maybe not got as much to deal with because there's not as much getting past him. Getting past Bauer, that is. Yeah. Sorry.
But the only place we look a little bit vulnerable is out wide.
Yeah.
I think the Forest game is the first goal we conceded straight to the middle of the season. And I think, we don't. Bauer and Davis complement each other really well. I mean, Ben Davis is a revelation at centre half compared to the player that was it Sheffield United who played at home when he played left back and was absolutely torn a new one. You look back at that compared to the player that is now and it's poles apart.
Oh yeah.
And that, I suppose, at Fleetwood's probably done in the world of good. And I think he played on the left of a 3 that season.
He played left of about 3, didn't he?
And I just think he's reading the game and how his distribution. He's decent in the air. I think Bauer's probably the more aggressive of the two. But you need that sort of complement. And I think the issue with these goals we're conceding from out wide is how we're conceding them. So initially, how are we not stopping the cross? How is that person being able to beat a fullback or not be closed down and actually get the ball in the box? And quite often we're actually winning the first ball, but it's the second ball. You look at the goals conceded against Millwall, against Swansea. It's the ball that's coming from the edge of the box and the midfield that's running on. Why aren't we tracking them? And to be fair, is it Galley? Is it Pio? Is it the centre halves not getting rid of it? Far enough, or actually dealing with the first phase of play? Because that second phase of play is preventable. And I just think, look at a few of the crosses we've just not closed the man down. And that's
the one that sticks out to me is the Sheff Wednesday one.
The beach one,
away from the ball in and the quality of the finish, but Ollie's gone on quite a bit about it to me and Dan. The way that we sort of defend the box is quite narrow, and we rely on the wingers to essentially fill in as fullbacks.
Yeah.
And I think the Swansea one as well is another one that you can sort of put in this category where Maguire was playing out on that side for the Swansea one, and it was Barkey, I think, for the Sheff Wednesday one. We're just nowhere near. And as soon as that ball comes into the box, all right, I think Davis could have done better with maybe the way that he attacked the ball for Fletcher's goal. I can't really remember the Swansea one.
Well, the Swansea one, the lads whipped it across, and it's a first touch finish, into the bottom, the deck's bottom right.
Yeah.
And it's a good finish, and it's right in the corner, but we should be preventing the cross. I get it's Rafferty's side, and he's probably not got out to the man. A bit like Fisher. Fisher didn't get out to the man for the Sheff Wednesday goal. I think we just probably need to put a bit more pressure on, and stop the crosses more, because the reach ball in is from deep. To be fair, it's not from the byline.
No,
it's not from
near the byline really.
It
was pretty much right in front of me, and I sit on the end of the third block to the end from the Finney.
Yeah, so it's probably about 25, 30 yards from the touchline, in terms of actual distance out from the actual touchline.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's got to be a good ball in. And I mean, it's a wicked ball. Let's be honest. Is it defendable? Well, yeah, I think it's defendable on two accounts. We need to close the man down, and we probably need to try and attack the ball, but you've got to keep an eye on Fletcher at the same time. And you know what? It's probably an impossible job to mark someone like Stephen Fletcher.
Yeah.
In that situation, because
it's not an enviable position, is it?
No, I mean, should Bauer have had him potentially? But he's dropped off to be on Davis, because why wouldn't you target Davis? If there's two centre halves you want to be heading the ball against as Stephen Fletcher, it's going to be Ben Davis.
Yeah.
But what to do to improve it? I suppose we've just got to. For me, we've got to be a bit more aggressive in terms of closing the man down. Fisher's usually good at it, because Fisher usually either puts the ball in the stands or puts the man in the stands. It's one of the two usually with him.
There's no frills, is there?
No, and I suppose with Rafferty, he's filling in. He's not an out and out left back. He's never going to be. He looks a little bit uncomfortable when it's on his left foot, but he's doing a job. So we can't really criticise him too much. And does Hughes do much better? I don't know. And again, it's a lad that's coming from the midfield or the striker that's dropped off in the Swansea instance that scored the goal. So,
yeah, there's definitely plenty to be worked on over the international break, because I think is there only Alan Brown that's gone?
There isn't a minute, yeah, because Maguire's come back.
Maguire's pulled out on there with his eye, because I think he's going to see a specialist or something in Manchester.
Yeah, well, they're about 2 weeks out, aren't they, for him? So hopefully they'll be back after the break. So
yeah, fingers crossed. So yeah, there's plenty of time there for the manager to work on stuff. But I think overall, first month in, like we said before, if you they'd have offered us what we've got now after the Millwall game, I think you'd have been hard pushed to find someone that would have said no.
Yeah, absolutely. You just snap your hands off after the after Millwall. But I mean, I look at the month ahead, and we're playing two of the current top six. In terms of Leeds and Bristol City. Brentford, another good side. I know the league table position probably doesn't justify where they're probably at as a side, and obviously Birmingham are again just on the same points as us, so they're doing some decent things. Obviously, they've got.
I tipped Birmingham to go down as well. Tipped them to be around the bottom three. I think I had them second bottom.
I think the bottom. Well, I don't think. Yeah, it's a funny one, the bottom three at the minute, because Huddersfield, I mean, they can't buy a win at the minute, and I mean, they should probably have never kept the manager that they did.
No.
For as long as they did. I mean, they won 1 in 22 games in the Prem. It's just a ridiculous record. I mean, why not just get rid in the summer? Start again.
What made that even more bizarre was that there was a new owner as well. New owner took over and he kept him.
Yeah, Dean Hoyle left, didn't he? Because obviously Dean, he's been a little bit unwell by all accounts, and Dean Hoyle's dream as it was to get into the Premier League, it's an absolute fairy tale for what he did at that club, and I'm quite a big advocate of his in terms of obviously what he's done off the pitch as well as on it.
Yeah.
But that could all go to waste unless they actually start picking up form, because you can't take 1 point from 6 games. Well, we did last season, I suppose, didn't we? So and ended up 40.
At this point, it is still probably just about early enough, but I reckon, if you're getting into the middle of October time, and if you're still in that position, then you would start worrying, I think.
Yeah. So it's it'd be interesting. I mean, it's a tough month. I mean, let's see where we are this time next month, mate, because we'll be just before the. Oh, I forgot who we've got this time next month. Is it a Tuesday game? We've got a Tuesday night game, haven't we? I think about this time.
Got Borough on the 1st.
That'll be it then. Is that Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday
That's
night.
Tuesday night, isn't it? So, and that won't be easy.
No.
Because Woodgate's gone in there. I mean, I watched their game against Bristol City at weekend, and it's a funny one because I mean, you've got Assambalonga who's just ruthless, but getting the ball, I think they looked a little bit suspect at the back. Bristol City, I tipped them to be top 6 at the start of the year. I thought
I can't remember what
they improved.
I think I had them as top 6. I had Brentford just outside.
Yeah. Bristol City improved in the summer. I know they've obviously lost a centre-half, Webster, who had a torrid game on Saturday for Brighton. But they improved, getting the 2 lads in from Chelsea, like Callas and is it De Silva? Obviously got Casey Palmer back as well. So
good player, Palmer. Fan of him. Yeah,
very technically great. I'm just not sure about his work rate off the ball. It's that'll be my issue with him if he was ever to rock up here. I'm not sure if he'd work hard enough off the ball to without
summer.
Yeah. So I agree. But again, it's one of those, isn't it? Really, it's like it's plays for our style of play. I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but you've got to fit in with the new Preston ethos, really, which is hard work off the ball because it is.
Yeah.
It's something that Robinson had to adapt to under Neil, because obviously when Neil first came in, Robinson was nowhere near. No, absolutely, and he adapted his game, worked hard.
I think for me, Robbo was, and I'm firmly in the Callum Robinson fan club at this moment. But for me, I think he was one of, if not the most improved player under Alex Neil.
Without a doubt. I mean, I wasn't his biggest fan, I'll be honest with you, mate. Before Neil came in, I thought.
I think for me, it was a bit like DJ for me.
Yeah.
You could see that he had something, but
he was lazy at times.
Yeah.
He'd go missing in big games. He'd turn it on when he wanted to. I mean, I think it was the Arsenal game when he scored, but didn't do much else that game, and was sort of what wasn't the McGeady show that night. And but he'd go missing at times, and he probably just wouldn't want to know. But then under Neil, I suppose after his little incident at the training ground, allegedly, he knuckled down, and he became the player he was. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? He worked his socks off for us, and there was a massive difference becoming the number 37, as we used to call him, because he wasn't fit enough to wear his name, to being the number 7 that was actually our best player. Going forward for the past probably couple of seasons, alongside Hugill.
Without a doubt.
So,
without a doubt, but yeah, I think month 1, big tick from me.
Yep. First week aside, and
I think overall though it's maybe
absolutely it's a solid 8.5 out of 10 for me. It's the only disappointing.
I was going to say, I think if we're going old school, it's a B+.
Yeah, just about scrapes it. I think if you include the Millwall game and obviously the transfer window, which were probably the 2 negatives, and losing Malt and Clark for the time that they're going to be out for.
And obviously Hughes for the time that he'll have been out.
Yeah, I mean, he'll have missed 3 games, I think it'll have been.
Was it Wigan that he got the injury?
Yeah, so what have we missed there?
3, 4, 5, 6 games.
Yeah, does that include the 2 cup games, is it?
Yeah, that's 4 league games.
Yeah, so...
because he probably wouldn't have played in the cup games, would he? So 4 league games. Maybe be back involved for Brentford.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll depend on whether they have a bounce game over the international period and get some minutes into him or not.
I'm going to strongly guess they're going to, if not 2. I'd probably say there's going to be 1 next 48 hours and then probably 1 next week as well.
Yeah.
Just to keep him ticking over. And I mean, you know what? Ginelli did all right the other night at left back.
Yeah, he did.
He's not a left back, is he? But he did a decent job. And I mean, his pace.
Considering against, I think it was Chorley when he came on at right back, I was like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. But yeah, no, he did well. I mean, that what the hell's he called? That winger from Everton that Hull have that we were linked with in the summer. He went off after about 55 minutes.
Oh, his name doesn't ring a bell. I can't think of his name. Not Pennington, is it? No, he's a centre half, isn't he?
Yeah, no, it wasn't him. I can't remember, but yeah, whoever it was, I thought he's not done too bad there up against someone like that, and then obviously they brought Bowen on, and I think it was pretty plain to see that Ginelli would be going off.
Yeah,
bring Wrath on, but yeah, no, it's been a good been a good start to the season, not a good season.
No. On to hopefully another good month, mate, and be in a good place then, and hopefully kick on through the latter months of this year. So it'll be a good year if we can come out, if we can keep up, or keep similar form to what we've currently got. Then, fingers crossed for a positive season. So
yeah, touch wood. But yeah, cool. I think we'll call that a podcast.
Yeah.
Unless you've got anything else to add.
No, mate. It's been a pleasure helping you out, mate. It's been good. It's been an experience to say the least. So, but no, get in touch with these guys if you want to sort of jump on, because it's well worth a couple of hours out of your evening just to chat football more than anything. You know what I mean? It's like it's enjoyable just to have a bit of a natter. It's good just to be able to talk Preston, at times, because we do get missed out. Mainstream media miss Preston out all the time because we're just this little club in the northwest that everyone forgets about, and we pop up every now and again, and people forget our history. But we're not bitter. We're just Northerners like them own.
Just love a whinge.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No. Cheers, mate. I really appreciate it, and try and get you on again later in the season at some point.
Yeah. No, pleasure. Thanks, mate.
So yeah. Thanks for listening to episode 14 of the From the Finney podcast. Hopefully you've listened to it all. It's a bit of a bumper one. And also apologies that it's a little bit later than usual. So all those that were missing a pod on their Monday morning commute, I can only apologise. But if you could, as always, share, like, retweet, tell your friends, your family, people that you see in the street, whatever. Just help spread the word. It's massively appreciated. The pod is available on pretty much all platforms now, I think. The main ones being Spotify and Apple Podcasts for us looking at the numbers, but we are available elsewhere. And yeah, we have social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, so just search for From the Finney and say hello. And finally, if you liked what Jimmy had to say, then you can follow him on Twitter. He's just at Bayside Peony. So yeah, give him a follow and say hello. So yeah, I think that's it. Cheers for coming on, mate.
No, thanks, mate. It's been a pleasure. So see you later on in the season.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to meet up for a beer.
Yeah, definitely. You're around, mate.
I know you want.
You've not heard how tight I am. So.
Well, just this bloody late night recording.
No, it's at all, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.